We will discuss today measures on how to curtail this illegal practice of detaining patients or cadavers. We will take up Senate Bill 1665 by Senator Risa Ontiveros, which increases the penalties against institutions continuing this practice and includes private rooms in the coverage of the law, and Senate Bill 697 of Senator Pimentel, which seeks to prohibit the withholding of Muslim cadavers in the custody of any hospitals and mandates their release within 24 hours from death for burial in accordance with Islamic belief. May I now ask my fellow senator if you have any opening remarks regarding the matter. Senator Risa, go ahead.
Yes, Chair, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank our Chair, Senator Bongo, for calling this hearing on one of our priority health measures in the Senate, the strengthened anti-hospital detention bill. I'd also like to acknowledge the original sponsor of this law 12 years ago, Senator Pia Cayetano, who I'm sure is still supportive of its intent, which is basically to prevent the practice of detaining patients or deceased bodies in hospitals due to non-payment of hospital bills. Ang mga ospital ay dapat nanggagamot, hindi nagkukulong ng mga tao. Ang mga ospital ay lugar gamutan, hindi kulungan. Hospitals are health sanctuaries, not prisons. Patients are not prisoners. Sila ay mga pasyente, hindi mga detainees. Sa isang panahon na laganap ang iba't ibang uri ng sakit at epidemya at kung saan ang ilan sa ating mga opisyal sa ating mga ospital ay ginagawa pang mistulang hotel ng mga convicted drug at crime lords para sa kanilang staycation mula sa bilibid, ang mga ospital ay dapat nagbibigay ng pag-asa at lunas, hindi dagdag pasakit at pagdurusa. While I also understand that costs of hospitals must be covered for continued operations, the rights and liberty of patients are non-negotiable. Hospitals should be places where people suffering from various ailments find ample medical treatment and care in the hands of doctors, nurses, and other health professionals. Hospitals must not be seen as prisons depriving patients of their liberty in the event that they have difficulty settling their medical bills. The protection against any means to vitiate a person's free will and any form of detention is a right guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution. It's a widely accepted tenet in healthcare that the patient has the right to make decisions regarding medical care, including the right to accept or refuse treatment. Republic Act 9439, entitled An Act Prohibiting the Detention of Patients in Hospitals and Medical Clinics on Grounds of Non-Payment of Hospital Bills or Medical Expenses, was enacted, as the Chair said, in 2007, sponsored by Senator Pia as then Committee on Health Chair, authored by Senators Manny Villar and Sergio Osmeño III, to curtail the unscrupulous practice of refusing the discharge of patients, effectively detaining due to their inability to fully or partially pay for their medical expenses. The law also prohibits the undesirable practice of refusing to release to their families the body of a deceased patient with unpaid bills. 12 years on, the practice has persisted. May mga kwento pa rin ng pasyente who are not discharged or are not able to get pertinent documents regarding their admission if they are unable to settle their hospital bills. May mga kaso pa nga na lumalaki lalo yung bill nila, gaya ng sinabi ni Chair, because di sila dinidischarge kahit clinically magaling na sila. There are still stories of families not being able to get the bodies of their deceased loved ones na mas lalo pang nakakadagdag sa kanilang pagluluksa. Often it is poor Filipino families who are being victimized by this practice. So this has to be stopped. RA 11223, or the Universal Healthcare Law signed last year, is expected to usher sweeping changes in how healthcare services are financed. Section 9 of the law specifically provides that there should be no co-payment for patients admitted under a basic accommodation in hospitals, whether private or public. With this shift, there should be no more reasons for hospitals to detain patients on account of non-payment of bills. In a way, RA 9439 and this proposed measure, or these proposed measures, including that of Senator Coco, will complement the UHC law by being the indirect enforcer of the provision on zero co-payment on basic accommodations. So, Mr. Chair, for today's hearing, I would just want to listen first to our resource persons. I'd like to hear their positions, and if they have suggestions, of course, I'd also like to hear that too. We want to be fair to all the stakeholders who will be affected by this proposed measure, like our patients and healthcare providers. Later, I'll ask some operational questions, Mr. Chair, regarding certain sections of the UHC law and how it will impact on this proposed bill. And lastly, for starters, Mr. Chair, with the Chair's permission, I'd like to show the committee a brief video produced by Tristan Nodalo of CNN Philippines on a specific case that we are tackling today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Risa. All right, we may now hear the position of our resource persons regarding Senate Bills 166 and 697. May we start with the Department of Health, DOH.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good afternoon po for the sponsor, Senator Hontiveros. We're currently consolidating the comments from the Department of Health, Your Honors. But essentially, we fully support the bill of the good senators, Senator Hontiveros and Senator Pimentel. That's all, as of the moment, Your Honor.
Okay. Ganito po yun, meron lang po akong mga konting tanong. Yung sa existing law natin is it applies to including private ba ito or sa public lang? Private and so yung bill natin steeper penalties lang.
Yep.
Bakit marami pa rin nagrereklamo sa ngayon na diyan malapit sa akin hindi sila nakakalabas? Go ahead, Dr. Swalog.
The prevailing law, which is, Mr. Chair, the prevailing law, which is Republic Act 2439, does not cover patients who stayed in private rooms. And so, why does detention, alleged detention, still persist? I have here some reasons. First, because of the inability of the patients to pay the bill in full. Second, of course, the law, RA 9439, does not cover patients who stay in the private rooms. Third, patients or patients' relatives oftentimes do not cooperate for the compliance with the hospital policies and procedures for the release of the patient. Example, execution of promissory note. There are patients even given the chance to execute a promissory note despite having stayed in the private rooms. They refuse to execute promissory note. Another one, probably because of the misinterpretation of the law, RA 9439, by the relatives or by the patients. At times, patients go to the nearest hospital due to sense of urgency or for medical management regardless of budgetary constraint. At times also, by force of circumstances, doctors order the patient to stay in private rooms to prevent infection or to spread infection. Another one, refusal of the government hospitals to admit patients due to lack of vacancy or no vacancy. And the last one, the service capability of the hospital, maybe a level 1 hospital, cannot provide the needed medical services, and therefore patients are referred to the hospitals with appropriate higher service capability. Thank you, Chair, Mr. Chair.
Ako based on experience, sa totoo lang, kahit na yung pasyente tayo, may anak tayo, emergency, mga anak, ganito, alam mo, hindi na po naisip. Yun ang bantayan natin. Hindi na talaga naisip ng magulang o nung parents na saan nila. Ang importante, madala nila, ma-admit nila. Hindi na nila isipin kung private ba ito, kung magkano ang babayaran. Ang attitude talaga natin na Pilipino is bahala na. Yun ang totoo, bahala na, mamaya na lang yan. Total, hanapan na lang natin. Yun ang nagiging problema dyan. Pero naintindihan naman natin, lalo-lalo na parents tayo. Pinakamalapit, totoo yun. Lalo-lalo na po, pag pinakamalapit yung private, pasok na natin dito. Mamaya na natin pag-usapan kung paano labas. At saka hindi na po siguro maisip minsan ng magulang. Unless na lang na walang komplikasyon, yung diretso, prepared sila, handa sila, merong package o yung mga anak. Pero ito yung medyo may komplikasyon, diretso na yan. Kahit sa hospital, pinakamalapit hospital, emergency, o ano bang bakanting kwarto dyan, pasok nila. Yun talagang nangyayari. Going back to sa Muslim rin po. Let me share lang po. Sa Davao, meron doon, bumili nga po si then Mayor Duterte na sasakyan na isang Kia vehicle na naka-assign po para lang po sa mga Muslim pag may namatay, ihati doon sa mga probinsya nila. So, alam namin yung 24 within 24 hours at dawn time, kailangan nalilibing na po yung katawan. Kaya naghanda siya ng sasakyan para lang po doon sa mga Muslim na namamatay, ihatid sa probinsya kaagad. Dahil yun, tama yun. Yun ang problema kung madidetain yung cadaver at against the belief o kultura ng ating Muslim. Maganda po itong dalawang bill na ito na dapat pa natin pag-usapan at ayusin at let's go into reality. Yung ano talaga yung totoong nangyayari at paano natin matutulungan ang pasyente. Isa ngayon po, daming nagsusumbong sa akin doon sa Cavite na didetain. Saan ba sila pwedeng magsumbong yung mga pasyente kung sakaling unlawfully dinidetain sila ng hospital ngayon? Meron ba kayong hotline o kanina sila pwedeng magsumbong para po ang DOH bang sasagot yan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. You can go directly to the regional offices of DOH, Mr. Chair, or to the HFSRB at the central office po, in case of illegal detention of patients and cadavers.
And then usually ano pong ginagawa ninyo based on sa previous cases, pag may nagsumbong dinidetain nila, anong ginagawa kagad ng DOH?
Outrightly, we call the hospital concerned po, Mr. Chair. Then we follow up with the letter to the hospital concerned po.
Meron bang mga cases na talagang nagmamatigas sila? And then kung nagmamatigas sila, anong ginagawa niyo? Kinakasuhan niyo ba?
Then, part po yun na may complaint po silang file sa amin, Mr. Chair. Pwede namin silang file ng pwede pong file ng complaint yung relative sa atin, sa DOH po. Then we will resolve the complaint against the hospital concern. No? Pero yun po ang unang step na ginagawa namin. Tatawagan namin yung hospital, i-follow up namin yung status ng patient po natin. Then may follow-up letter po sa nila to requesting them to release po yung patients po.
Ang pinakamalaking problema natin is yung sa Muslim. Kasi kung pag namatay sa gabi, kailangan nilang i-release that night rin kasi ililibing. Eh kung walang opisina, walang sasagot, walang makaka-contact doon sa ospital, ano pong nangyayari pag sa itong cases ng mga Muslim cadavers po?
Mr. Chair, sa DOH po naman kasi 24 up to Sunday may naka-duty po. In case of Saturdays and Sundays, may naka-duty po sa DOH na officer in charge na pwede pong tawagan to assist po yung mga patients po natin, yung mga relatives po.
You mean all regional offices
Yes.
have duty in charge?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ano na lang po, pakisigurado na lang. Sa ngayon, kahit hindi pa ito pinapasa yung batas natin, napaka-importante po yun na meron kagang yung iba kasi wala silang access sa malalayong lugar. So, especially in Mindanao, mas karamihan po sa mga kapatid nating Muslim na doon po sila. Go ahead, DOH. Do you have any question?
Mr. Chair, gaano po ba ka-prevalent yung practice na to na may nadidetain na pasyente o kaya namatay na pasyente dahil sa non-payment or non-full payment ng bills? May data po ba ang DOH tungkol dito?
It's presented there also, in year 2018, we had 726 cases po. Actually, they are all confined in private rooms po. Except for one, but when we wrote a letter or coordinate to the hospital, the hospital immediately released. So practically there was no, I would say, violation of that Republic Act Amendment 439. In year 2017, we had 457 cases po. But essentially, there was no hospital which was held liable for violating RA 9439. By the way, may I also say that some patients go to the public attorney's office po, not only to DOH. And when the public attorney's office write demand letters to the hospitals for the release of the body of the patients, were copy furnished. And at times we follow up with the hospitals what happened to the demand letter. And most of the cases, the patients were released.
Doctor, so 457 noong 2017, tapos 726 noong 2018. So halos dumoble. How would DOH account for that po? Dahil ba no hospitals were held liable, kaya nagpatuloy yung practice at halos pa dumoble the following year?
Yes, ma'am. Opo, ito po essentially ito yung mga lumalapit sa amin para humingi ng tulong kasi may mga pasyente silang na hindi nga po mailabas dahil hindi makabayad. So dahil po sa tinatawagan namin yung hospital, sinusulatan, ultimately nailalabas na rin po yung mga pasyente natin na hindi na rin po sila umaabot dun sa part na talagang lalabanan nila at makipag-asuntuhan sila with the DOH about the status of the patient po.
I understand, attorney. Pero syempre, Mr. Chair, nakakagulat pa rin. Yung raw numbers lang, ano po. Kasi yung 400 plus, marami na yon. That means more than one a day sa isang taon. Tapos mukhang sa susunod na taon, halos dumoble pa. Tapos ito pong 400 plus, then 700 plus, combined na po itong mga bilang nung patients, cured patients detained at saka yung mga katawan, yung mga bangkay nung namatay, or may disaggregation pa kayo dun sa dalawang iyon?
Madam, for year 2017, may disaggregated pa tayo dito na ito. Some, only a few, I would say for year 2018, requests for the release of the patients were 562. Requests for the release of cadaver, requests were 36. The rest are requests for the release of death certificates.
Tas Doctor, ano po yung kasalukuyang, and please also if the department could submit to the committee yung disaggregated data, pati for 2018 po. Ano pong current na enforcement mechanisms or para sa RA 9439? Tapos may complaint desk din po ba ang DOH? So aside po from the regional offices na sinabi ni Attorney Flores, aside from PAO na pinupuntahan ng ibang patients, meron bang in-house na mechanism ang DOH at meron din po ba kayong complaint desk para dun sa implementation talaga ng RA 9439?
Yes, Madam Senator po. Kasi sa HFSRB po sa office po namin, yung mayroon po tayong dedicated desk for tatawag naming complaints action unit po. Essentially, ang trabaho po nito, kagaya nito, yung mga illegal detention complaints po natin. No?
So ito po yung main or sole and main mechanism sa ngayon sa pagpapatupad ng 9439. Okay, Mr. Chair, gusto kong magtanong ng ilang parang operational questions, particular na posibleng problematic situations at paano ito maapektuhan ng implementation ng UHC law, lalo na yung Section 9. So kung pwede po, Mr. Chair, both DOH and or PhilHealth ay makasagot. Section 9 po of the UHC mandates that all Filipinos are automatically members of PhilHealth and that no co-payment shall be charged for services rendered under basic or ward accommodation. This means zero co-payment na for basic accommodation whether in public or private hospital. Tama po ba yon? Tama po yon, Attorney Polintan.
Yes, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, ibig sabihin, wala na po talagang excuse for this practice to continue, yung detention, whether ng cured patients or yung katawan ng yung deceased patient. So, I guess, tama lang po siguro, di ba, na lakihan natin ang penalty for a violation of this law with the passage also of the UHC law.
Yes, we agree, Madam Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So let's try out some scenarios here po. I have about 5 particular scenarios. Kung maaari po magbigay ng opinion ang PhilHealth at ang DOH kung ano po dapat yung maging policy. Kasi sabi ni Chair kanina, we have to improve the bills and make them more specific. So batay po sa pirmado ng kamakailan lang pirmadong IRRs ng Universal Healthcare Law. So scenario 1 po. Imagine natin, the patient goes to a public or private hospital under basic accommodation. So, wala naman question that PhilHealth should be enough in this case. Is this correct, Attorney? Basic accommodation po, whether public or private hospital, covered na po ng PhilHealth yon. Yes, basic accommodation, so sa ward. Yes, Attorney. Okay, scenario number 2. Patient goes to a public hospital under basic accommodation, but the case is complicated or catastrophic so that the cost of actually treating the patient is higher than the case rates. Zero co-payment pa rin po ba dapat? And how will, kung hindi man, how will the balance in terms of expenses for the patient be recouped? in a way, kailangan pag-isahin ng PhilHealth yung universal healthcare na tayo, zero co-payment, pero meron din naman po kayong case rates for yung Z packages, di po ba, yung catastrophic illnesses. So, paano po yung kung may balanse, paano ito mababawi?
As to the amount of co-payment in excess or for accommodations other than the ward accommodation, I will have to get back, Madam Senator, to consult with our health finance for any computation kung meron na po sila with regards to the new IRR of the UHC law.
Akala ko rin po, attorney, sasabihin nyo sa komite na in fact, PhilHealth is already studying shifting from case rate
To DRG.
to the DRG.
Yes, ma'am. We
Yun
are.
po, baka you could tell us a little bit about how you're working to change the provider payment mechanisms para to make the reimbursements reflective of how complicated or complex the particular case is. Yes, Mr. Chair, si Dr.
Go ahead,
Hardin.
Dr. Jesus Hardin.
Your Honors, can I answer to that question? I think regarding the question of Madam Senator, PhilHealth, for example, a patient came in as a simple case, and the patient becomes a catastrophic case, PhilHealth will already pay the catastrophic case DRG or case rate. In other words, there is already a increase also in the payment. So the issue now is if, for example, the case rate or the DRG on that case is really enough. But otherwise, by putting it as a more critical case, then PhilHealth is mandated to pay more compared to the simple case when the patient came into the hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in fact, yun yung isa sa mga welcome developments from within PhilHealth. Ginagawa nyo na po even before the UHC law was passed, pero lalo na pong nagkakaroon ng mandate given the final signing of the UHC law IRRs. Sige po, so salamat para doon, Dr. Hardin. Scenario number 3. The patient goes to a private hospital under basic accommodation, but the case is complicated or catastrophic, that the cost of actually treating the payment is higher than the case rate. So, kanina sa public hospital nangyari to. Ito ngayon sa private hospital. This should still be zero co-payment, right? But who pays the balance? Same case ba kung sa public hospital? Same case ba sa private hospital? Na it will be, yung difference po will be made up by yung pag-recompute ng actual case rate or yung pag-migrate sa DRG system. Mr. Chair, I see Dr. Hardin shaking his head. Baka gusto niyong linawin yung situation.
There is a difference in the private and public hospital because in the public hospitals, income generated or revenues generated from PhilHealth can actually be used to pay for the expenses. Unlike, for example, in private hospitals, actually it's the money of the private hospitals that are being used to treat for that patient. So in other words, the co-payment it should be much higher because there is no subsidy coming from the income of, let us say, PhilHealth, subsidy from GAA and others. So this should be a big difference now in terms of how much we are going to pay in private because we are not subsidized by the government. Unlike, for example, in public hospitals, the income generated through PhilHealth is actually retained and can actually be used for other purposes like in MOE and other capital outlays.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tama po ba yun, PhilHealth? Hindi po ba dapat with the either higher computation of the value of each case rate or either dun sa paglipat nyo sa DRG system na public hospital man yan o private, na yung tamang gastos sa pagpapagaling ng pasyente, given his or her sickness, ay makover ng PhilHealth. And then kailangan na lang nating pag-usapan sino at papaano babayaran yung excess or yung balanse.
I'm very sorry, Madam Senator. I'm not very well versed dun sa bagong computation with regards dun sa shift from all case rate to DRG. However, we on the scenario number 2 and 3, we will submit our position on that, Madam Senator, Mr. Chair.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. May Mr. Chair, si Dr. Hardin is asking to be recognized.
Meaning you have to understand, Mr. Chair, that for example, in public hospitals, salaries of nurses, medicines, and other supplies are actually provided for by the government. In private hospitals, salaries are actually generated through income of the hospitals. So now there's a big difference. In public hospitals, you only spend this much, so it would be expected that the co-payment will be less or none, because you know the government is there supporting the public hospitals. In private hospitals, you buy medicines, you pay for the salaries of your nurses, etc. So if you compare between two scenario, actually the cost in private is really higher compared, for example, in public. So in fact, for example, in some other countries, they will not even pay. In Singapore, in public hospitals, PhilHealth will not pay anymore public hospitals because they are being subsidized by the government. Only the private hospitals are being paid because they act as if they are partner in the delivery of healthcare in the country. So this is really a big difference because here in the country, we pay public and private. But you know, the public is highly subsidized.
I think, Mr. Chair, yung pino-point out din ni Dr. Hardin is something na sinusubukan talagang i-address ng universal healthcare system and primarily through PhilHealth, pooling of the risks. And totoo nga, yung public hospitals have a subsidy from the government, from the General Appropriations Act, from the sin taxes, pero hindi sila profit-making institutions, unlike the private hospitals, na iba naman syempre ang business model niya. So, well, alam naman natin lahat sa PhilHealth, we're trying to put up a more effective and efficient pooling of risk mechanism. At yung isang instrument natin, itong sa ngayon, yung case rates, and then ngayon tinatrabaho ng PhilHealth yung DRGs. I will admit, Mr. Chair, baka yung pagbayad nung in excess of kung ano yung case rate sa ngayon or ano magiging value ng mga DRG later on, baka iba yung magiging mechanism for private and public hospitals. Pero dapat, ang babalikat niyan is the health system. Hindi mai-impact adversely yung mga pasyente, which is what yung bills namin ni Senator Coco are trying to address more effectively. So, Scenario 4, at ito, I'm sure Dr. Hardin could also help us with this kasi private hospital scenario ito. Patient goes to a private hospital, insists on a basic accommodation, but is admitted to a higher accommodation, so syempre with co-payment, because, nabanggit ni Chair kanina, there's no more room for basic accommodation, nagkataon puno. Will there still be co-payment for this patient?
Let me add, under the current law, the patients confined in private rooms are not covered, di ba? What happens if there is no available ward and the patients had no choice but to be confined in a private room? Are they still covered by the current law or are they treated as a private patients? Go ahead.
I think the law is very specific with regards to that issue. Because if you will take a look at the IRR of RA 11223, under 9 point something, I forget the number, if there is no available ward accommodation and the patient is being admitted in the private room, then it states there that the patient will have no co-payment. That's, I think, it's very specific there in the provision. In fact, that was even the provision that we tried to delete during the technical working committee, but during the final provision of the IRR, it was still there. So in other words, even if, for example, there is no room and then you are admitted in the private room, no co-payment. But there's still a provision there that if, for example, there is no way where we can transfer the patient in, let us say, other facilities. But I think that's there, and in fact, that is even the issue being raised now with the Private Hospital Association, Because, what if all patients will just, I want, because you have to take into consideration under the current law, only 10% of the total bed capacity of private hospitals are considered ward. And in government, 90%. So in other words, there are still about 90% considered private. So in other words, there will only be few ward accommodation in private hospitals. If under the law, only 10%. Except, Mr. Chair, that there are some hospitals, for example, in Bukidnon, and in Bukidnon particularly, who are accepting actually patients, no balance billing, regardless whether it's a private room or a ward accommodations. And they still actually are doing well in their business by just accepting PhilHealth payment.
Bakit ganon kung kaya nila? But yung private ito sa Bukidnon?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Sobra.
I think, Mr. Chair, it has something to do. In private hospitals, you have to be more innovative and creative also in how you would like to run your business. So, in Bukidnon, you can actually lower your cost by procurement of, not generic medicines, and of course, you have to make arrangement with your specialist that you cannot charge beyond it as a certain ceiling. So these are ways and means wherein some hospitals can actually still survive and have profit by accepting no balance billing. And in fact, there are hospitals in the country that are doing that.
So I think, Mr. Chair, kayo po ni Dr. Hardin made the point na pwede talagang balansehin yung pagsulong ng mga layunin ng Universal Healthcare Law and the profitability and sustainability of private hospitals. Kahit dito po sa usapin ng dalawang bills na dinidinig natin. If I may, Mr. Chair, one last scenario
Go
na
ahead, Senator.
i-test sa PhilHealth at DOH. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, last scenario po, patient goes to a private hospital, voluntarily gets admitted to a higher accommodation. So, ito hiningi talaga niya yung more than ward. So, I guess in this case, PhilHealth will still cover, but there should be some co-payment. Tama po. So, tama po. So, what if now this patient is unable pala to pay this balance? Definitely, we will not allow na hindi siya ma-discharge because di lang siya makabayad. But I think the patient should still pay. Di po ba? So this will just be a question of what mechanisms will be in place to ensure that the hospital is paid.
Kaya meron tayong malasakit, no?
Yan.
Yan.
Actually, Sir Chair, nababanggit ko nga yun dun sa bill.
Alam mo, yan talaga ang totoo. Yan ang tinatakbuhan nila ngayon. Kahit na may universal healthcare, wala silang mapuntahan. Kaya pupunta sila malasakit. Dahil nandyan yung DSWD, PhilHealth, PCSO, at yun talaga ang nagbabayad ng balanse nila. Anyway, go ahead, Attorney Polintan.
Actually, Mr. Chair, nabanggit nyo nga po yung malasakit centers. Yung isang insight ko nga dito po sa dalawang bills namin ni Senator Coco, in a way, this is similar to what is being proposed by Senate Bill 199. Assistance fund that's on top of what the UHC has pulled for individual based services. And nabanggit din po natin dun sa isa pang hearing na chinare nyo, isa pang paraan na i-dovetail itong bills dun sa Senate Bill 199 ay gawin nga yung DOH, PhilHealth, DSWD staff dun sa proposed centers responsable din sa pag-monitor ng compliance to pro-patients' rights law in these hospitals where they are. So yun, I ended yung last question ko about scenarios na it's a matter of working out anong mechanisms should be in place para matiyak na mababayad yung ospital dun sa ano dapat yung co-payment, pero at the same time, walang pasyenteng magaling na or yung bangkay nung pasyenteng namatay na madedetain. At sa PhilHealth pa rin at saka sa DOH, gaano po ba kaayos ang basic accommodation as defined in the IRRs of the UHC. Paglalaban po kasi namin under the chair yung budget para sa UHC. So, inaasahan po namin na quality pa rin yung care na makukuha under such accommodations, no, basic accommodations. So, ano po ba yung definition nito sa UHC law? Yes, Chair. Actually, I heard Dr. Casas of PCSO addressing it. Ano yung quality of care under basic accommodation or ward dun sa UHC law?
No, actually po, ang
Yes, Chair.
experiences po namin sa hospital, it's just the basic lang talaga that there's the bed. It can be air-conditioned or it cannot be. Actually, that's the basic po. There can be several patients in the room with a comfort room or a washroom. Yun lang po yung usually yung basic.
Baka pwede pa pong i-flesh out ng DOH yung input ni Dr. Casas. Siyempre to include yung professional service ng doktor o ibang health service providers. Siyempre yung mga gamot, yung mga lab exams. Just for the record lang for the committee, ano po yung definition ng basic accommodation sa UHC law?
Good afternoon, Madam Senator, Mr. Chair. Well, for the basic or a ward accommodation is defined as it refers to the provision of a regular meal, bed in shared room with fan ventilation and shared toilet and bath. I think that's the
So basically, Mr. Chair, isa namang conducive environment
yes.
na pwedeng magamot yung pasyente ng mga doktor at iba pang health professional at pwede siyang gumaling, mabuhay, gumaling at umuwi.
Yes,
Okay,
Madam
po. So
Chair.
just for the record, salamat. My last question for this afternoon, Mr. Chair, yung nabanggit na rin ni Dr. Hardin kanina, the UHC law also mandates public hospitals to have at least 90% of beds as basic accommodation and for private at least 10%. So, how many percent po of public hospitals and private hospitals are currently at this proportion in terms of ward beds and private beds? And will DOH be strictly implementing this?
Yes, Madam Senator. Currently, as the licensing bureau, we require all hospitals to be compliant with this yung sa 10% at least 10% allocation of their authorized bed capacity for private hospitals na mag-allocate ng 10% as charity or for ward accommodation, and for government basically 50 at least 50% or 90% of at least 90% are ward or charity beds in public po. We are strictly enforcing it in our licensing requirements po.
Good to know, Mr. Chair. And salamat, Dr. Levice. So I guess yung isang dinidescribe natin in the hearing so far ay sa basic or ward accommodation na may standard of care at the very minimum for all patients, and then whether in public or private hospitals with that proportion 90-10 sa public, 10-90 sa private. So ang i-oversee ng DOH plus ng PhilHealth is really a whole universe of different hospital beds sa buong health system natin. May nabanggit pang isang detalye si Dr. Hardin kanina na kung puno na nga yung basic or ward accommodation, say sa isang private hospital, there may be through the mediation ng DOH coordination with a nearby public hospital, inaasahan natin habang pinatutupad yung UHC law ay tumataas at pumapantay yung quality of care in the basic or ward accommodation kahit sa private hospital para maging mas affordable para sa lahat and sustainable ang PhilHealth covering yung or providing for the financing or insurance coverage of the patients. At para hindi na rin umabot sa, kumbaga Mr. Chair, yung mga bills namin ni Senator Coco, in a way pang-emergency legislation para hindi umabot sa sukdulang ma-detain yung pasyente or even worse, ma-detain yung katawan nung ating mahal sa buhay. So this will be my questions for this afternoon, Mr. Chair. Salamat po, and salamat sa ating resource persons.
All right, we now hear the position of the PhilHealth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator. First of all, PhilHealth would like to thank you for inviting us, and we would like to express our support to the proposed legislation. However, PhilHealth, in its position paper submitted to this honorable committee, expresses reservation as to the inclusion of PhilHealth as one of the guarantors, as one of the guarantors or co-makers in case a patient was not able to pay the excess amount other than the no balance billing or the ward accommodation, simply because PhilHealth already deducts benefits of the patient before or prior to discharge of the patient. And also, with the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Law, it is guaranteed that everyone will be registered and covered by PhilHealth. So, yun pong mga benepisyo natin bago tayo ma-discharge ay nabibigay naman po at nadideduct ng hospital dun sa bill na po ng mga pasyente. So, other than that, with respect to the imposition of a higher or stricter penalties, PhilHealth poses no objection thereto, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator.
Next is SSS, the Social Security System. Attorney Joseph Disunya, go ahead.
Magandang hapon, Mr. Chairman. Magandang hapon po, Senator Risa. This afternoon po, we submitted already the official position statement of the Social Security System as approved by our governing board. Ito po yung Social Security Commission. The Commission has stated as official position that it supports fully po the intention of these bills, which is to fight against this practice of detaining cadavers and non-issuance of relevant records kung hindi po nabayaran partially or fully ang hospital bills, expenses, and other payables nung member ng Social Security System. Kanya lang po for the record, because of the fiduciary obligation po of the Social Security Commission towards the fund as well as to the SSS members and their beneficiaries, we are minded po to point out that the statutory mandate of the SSS is different. Under RA 11199, ito po yung pinasa last Congress, ito po yung Social Security Act of 2018, ang pagbibigay po ng benepisyo ng SSS ay naaayon po sa pangyayari ng mga contingencies. Ito po yung sickness, disability, maternity, retirement, kamatayan, at ang bago pong benepisyo, ito yung unemployment benefits. Under Section 8, Paragraph K po, ang pag-compute ng mga benepisyo ng SSS ay naaayon sa tinatawag na monthly salary credit at hindi po base sa aktual na halaga ng naipon na hospital bills at saka professional fees and other miscellaneous expenses. So when we do po the assessment of how much we are supposed to pay under po the SS law, ang pinagbabatayan po among others ay yung monthly salary credit o contribution ng isang member. At saka may mga qualifying conditions pa po, like sa mga short-term benefits, at least may 3 hulog within the 12-month period po. I mean, within the prior to the semester of the contingency. Samantalang sa mga long-term benefits naman po, hindi siya cash benefit. This could take the form of a pension or a lump sum amount. Mayroon po tayong binabayaran na hanggang habang buhay yung surviving spouse. Kung may dependent po, binabayaran din po natin yon until the dependent reaches the age of 21. So, iba po talaga ang statutory mandate ng SSS. Ang pangalawang kadahilanan po is sa batas din po under Section 8 paragraph K, yung isa po yung G, I'm sorry, napangalanan na po kung sino ang rightful payee na kinakailangang bayaran ng SSS. Dinefine po dyan kung sino yung primary beneficiary, secondary beneficiary, at saka po yung designated beneficiary. Under our fiduciary obligation, the SSS must determine po the lawful and the rightful payee. Otherwise, there will be no legal basis in paying SSS benefits. So, mukhang ang letter of guarantee po under Section 2 of both bills, Senate Bill 166 at Senate Bill 697, is proposing that this LOG should answer po for this hospital bills, expenses, and other fees. Kanya lang po, medyo, yun nga po, hindi po ito align sa statutory mandate ng SSS. But by and large po, we really support po the intention. This is to put an end, hopefully, to this unscrupulous practice po. Maraming salamat, ma'am, and maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Clarification
Right.
lang. So, tulad ba nung sa PhilHealth, you are expressing your reservations na isa kayong institusyon na pwedeng mag-back up or mag-guarantee ng promissory note nung pasyenteng may utang pa o yung pamilyang may utang pa. Ganun po yun.
Essentially po kasi, ma'am, if I may respond po to the question, no? Ang letter of guarantee po makes our obligation to the hospital contractual or civil in nature. Hindi po ganoon ang pagtaya namin sa mandato po ng SSS. Kasi nga po, the SSS is in the business of providing social security protection. Ang SSS po dito sa Pilipinas ay isang what we call contributory program. So hindi po siya individual-based. Marami po tayong sinisiguro, meaning marami pong members ng SSS na we want to effect universal coverage sa mga employed, sa self-employed, sa members po ng informal sector, sa non-working spouse, sa OFW. So, ito po yung pangkalahatang stakeholders po na sana ay mabigyan natin ng sapat po na social security protection. Hindi po tayo tumitingin lang doon sa mga na-hospital. Because at the end of the day, ang sickness benefit po, ito po yung replacement ng lost income. Although partially lang po, sorry po, pero yan talaga ang nature ng SSS benefits. Hindi lang po sila ang tinitingnan na nangangailangan ng SSS. And the SSS fund is to answer not only for sickness or disabling conditions, but kasama nga po doon ang malaking bahagdan yung sa mga nag-retire. At saka yung pong mga namatay na tumatanggap po ng mga pension po habang buhay.
Mr. Chair, salamat po kay Attorney Desunia for the very helpful clarifications. Siguro po pag umabot tayo sa technical working group sa dalawang bills na ito, ang hinahanap po kasi, and I would, not presuming to speak for Senator Coco, pero I would request yung advice both ng PhilHealth at saka ng SSS. Siguro ang hinahanap po namin sa bill, and I will still consult with the finance people in my staff, pero ang hinahanap po sa bill ko is ano yung mga responsible financial institutions na parang pwedeng yes, mag-guarantee na yung pasyente o yung pamilya ng pasyente ay magbabayad nung kulang pang bayad sa ospital, to be charged against that proposed pa sa bill yung anti-hospital detention fund. So, pagdating po sa TWG, kung either ibang institusyon ba ang dapat in a way mag-vet ng promissory note, or may proper way ba given yung statutory obligations, mandates pala ng SSS at ng PhilHealth na they could play, Mr. Chair, they could play some role in vetting. At yun na nga po, kung hindi man kayo, sino po ang dapat? Or is it DOH alone? No? So, yun po yung hihingan ko ng payo when the time comes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Risa. May we now hear From GSIS, Attorney Lucio Yu Jr.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Senator Risa. GSIS fully supports the bill insofar as it strengthens and provides stiffer penalties for detention of hospital patients for non-payment of bills. I may wish to add that it should not be only detention but refusal to admission to admit, which is equally disastrous for the right to health of everybody. However, just like PhilHealth and SSS, we join, especially SSS, in expressing our serious reservations insofar as it also requires GSIS to act as guarantor with a joint and solidary liability for such non-payment of bills. As articulated by SSS, the same mechanism of social benefits as SSS for private employees as to government for GSIS. I just wish to add that aside from the non-congruence, we may say, of the mandate between the GSIS and SSS, there's also the problem of implementation because number one, benefits of SSS and GSIS are contingent in nature, meaning to say whether retirement or funeral benefits, these are contingent upon happening of an event that is death, and also subject to evaluation and entitlement. We have to evaluate whether a particular member is entitled, so that even if we will issue that guarantee, there's no definite, there's nothing definite about whether as guarantor we will be able to implement, and that may well create problems between the hospital and GSS and SSS on implementation. Number two is, I think SSS is also the same provision. Retirement benefits of GSIS are exempted from garnishment, legal processes, etc., even COA disallowance. There's only one exception. If there is a monetary obligation in favor of GSIS, that is why kung may utang kayo ng GSIS, idinako namin. But other than that, your retirement benefits cannot be subject to any garnishment by anybody, non-payment of debts, including hospital, I believe. So there is a legal impossibility, actually, if the proposal will be implemented. So we suggest that the previous law, which requires a promissory note and a mortgage, be retained, and the provisions on guarantee by, especially by PhilHealth, SSS, and GSIS, which I think is not the mandate to guarantee any obligations. In fact, it is very well expressed in our charter that no funds of GSIS, and the same way at PhilHealth and SSS, should be defrayed or can be allocated to other purpose other than retirement benefits. Suggestion, perhaps the honorable senators can look at creating a fund, not to be sourced from PhilHealth, SSS, and GSS, but separate. And this fund, in deference to the other agency, I don't know how it will be handled. Perhaps the other agency who are more into social welfare can handle this fund, and this can be monitored regularly through the oversight of Congress. Then all of the guarantees perhaps will be sourced from this fund, rather than from GSIS and SSS, which has specific mandate. And by the way, we did not source our budget from the national government. It is, nakaikot lang yan sa premium. So we would rather that this be maintained to defray the benefits. Yan lang ho, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the important clarification po kay Attorney Yu, definitely, yung kino-contemplate na solidary liability dito sa bills, at least yung bill ko, is not towards the pension institutions or even to PhilHealth. It's sa mga ospital. And yung fund na tinutukoy dito against which yung unpaid bills sa ospital ay babayaran is the proposed anti-hospital detention fund. So definitely there's no intention na obligahin in any way yung mga kaperahan ng mga members natin sa GSIS or sa SSS or even yung yung pera ng PhilHealth. So, uh, yun po. Salamat po.
Let's now proceed to the DSWD.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator. The draft position paper of the DSWD. This refers to the measures pertaining to increasing the penalties for the detention of patients and cadavers in hospitals, medical clinics, or any other similar facilities on grounds of non-payment of hospital bills or medical expenses, amending for the purpose Republic Act 9439 entitled An Act Prohibiting the Detention of Patients in Hospitals and Medical Clinics on Grounds of Non-Payment of Hospital Bills or Medical Expenses, and the Act Prohibiting the Withholding of Muslim Cadavers in the Custody of any hospital, medical clinic, funeral parlor, morgue, or other similar facilities on grounds of non-payment of hospital bills, medical expenses, or other fees, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes. From January to August 2019, the DSWD served 62,559 clients seeking burial assistance and 365,669 requesting medical assistance. Confirm po ang inyong sabi, Senator, na mayroong lumalapit na literal na umiiyak dahil sa kanilang kaso. That's why the department fully supports the amendment of Republic Act 9439 seeking stiffer penalties against hospitals, medical clinics, and other similar facilities that detain patients on the ground of non-payment of hospital bills. Likewise, the establishment of an anti-hospital detention assistance fund is a good mechanism to help poor patients trapped by medical expenses. To contribute to the bill's enhancement, we are recommending the following. To avoid duplication in the provision of services, the unpaid promissory note issued to indigent patients should be covered by the Anti-Hospital Detention Assistance Fund under the management of the Department of Health, rather than through a guarantee letter issued by the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Other comments, we recommend that further study of the bill as to the proper rule or implementing agency, namely the Local Social Welfare and Development Office, pursuant to the devolution of social services under the Local Government Code. Government hospitals, health centers should be provided with optimum resources and high-quality hospital equipment to respond adequately to the healthcare needs of the Filipino people. The position paper was already submitted to the office of Secretary Bautista. Thank you.
Go ahead. Let's now hear the position of the DOJ, Department of Justice.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair, tsaka Madam Senator, at sa lahat ng nandito. Ngayon po, kasalukuyan kami nagko-consolidate ng lahat ng mga comments namin kasi I think meron na sa 15 at saka 16 Congress na ganitong bills. Pero ngayon, ang meron ako ngayon ay yung initial policy recommendation namin relevant sa sa proposed measures na to. First, we suggest that the Senate Bill numbers 166 and 697, including their provisions that the government, through the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or the DSWD, in coordination with the Department of Health, should render assistance to the indigent individuals in society who could not afford to pay for the funeral expenses of their deceased relatives. Assistance by the DSWD could be rendered either by 1. Looking for financial assistance from government and non-government sources to settle the funeral expenses. It may coordinate with the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, the PCSO, or the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, PAGCOR, the local government units, and other agencies or organizations. And second, setting aside a budget to serve as financial assistance to families who could not afford to pay the basic funeral services, such as embalming. The surviving relatives could issue a promissory note in favor of the DSWD. Should they be indigent and totally unable to pay for the basic funeral services, the government should subsidize the same upon submission of the pertinent documents to prove their inability to pay. In addition, we suggest that the DSWD, in coordination with the DOH, should be the primary agency to promulgate the necessary rules and regulations in carrying the provisions of the proposed bills. The Constitution states that the state shall promote social justice in all phases of national development. Furthermore, it also provides that the state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. We agree that the funeral services providers should not refuse to release the bodies of the deceased. I mean, the hospital facilities should not refuse to release the bodies and the patients as well on the ground of non-payment of funeral expenses. However, in our opinion, the state should primarily take the duty of promoting social justice in all phases of national development as enshrined in the Constitution. Yun po, for the committee's consideration. It's the initial policy recommendation lang po. Pero hopefully, may we request the committee with the kind permission of the chair that we can to follow na lang po yung official na comment ng department within the week hopefully po.
Thank you. May we now move to PCSO. Please share your position. PCSO.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair, and our JEDC advocate, Senator Riza Hontiveros, Gender Equality, Diversity, and Social Inclusion. Mr. Chair, ikinalulugod ko pong i-announce sa inyo na nag-usap-usap po ang DOH, PhilHealth, PCSO, at DBM kung ano po yung gagawin natin para sa rollout ng universal healthcare. At isa po sa napag-usapan noong October 7 sa isang pulong na pinatawag po ni Executive Secretary Mijaldea ay kinonfirm po ng PCSO na magpapatuloy ang ating Individual Medical Assistance Program, lalong-lalo na po yung suporta namin sa malasakit sa loob ng susunod na 2 taon dahil may transition period po ang PCSO bago ibigay yung 100% fund pool niya sa PhilHealth. At dahil dito po, kahit na po mahirapan ng PCSO, ang instruction po ng ating PCSO Board of Directors ay to make sure na walang gap sa hospitalization assistance habang nag-progressive rollout po yung DOH sa loob ng 6 na taon. Ngayon po, isa po sana nabanggit ko po ito kay Senator Hontiveros nung UHC IRR signing. Kasi nakikinig po ako sa kuro-kuro ng aking mga kasamahan, lumalabas po may problema po tayo sa pondo. It's really our bottom line because I agree with Senator Bongo. Malasakit centers, right now po, nag-evolve po siya, Senator. Hindi na lang po hospitalization assistance, pero dumadami rin po yung tumatakbo sa malasakit centers natin for non-hospital related expenses, and one of this is burial assistance. So, pwede po ba hingin namin ang tulong ninyo, Senator Bongo at Senator Risa? Po-formalize ko na po. Gusto po sanang hingiin ng PCS ang tulong ninyo para ma-rationalize ang aming taxes. Under the train law, sir, noong January 2018, bigla pong tumaas yung documentary stamp tax ng PCSO from 10% to 20%. And annually, sir, Mr. Chair, we are remitting 12 billion to BIR because of the 20% DST. Now, the board would like sana po to redirect half of our documentary stamp tax directly to UHC and malasakit centers. This way, we approximate po na assuming na sustained ang aming sales at the current rate, I think we will be able to allocate a separate funding for malasakit centers by at least 5 billion. This way, PCSO's vision na magkaroon po ng malasakit centers sa lahat ng mga provincial hospitals may be a reality next year. We don't need to wait for 6 years until 100% progressive rollout po on DOH at PhilHealth. Ang objective po kasi namin, Mr. Chair, is maramdaman po ng taong bayan na nasa kanilang mga probinsya ang PCSO dahil matutulungan po nito yung aming sales promotion. What distinguishes PCSO from the games of TAGCOR, APECO, CESA, is the fact that the proceeds of all our games goes back to charity fund. And the charity fund by law under RA 1169 as amended is to be exclusively used as a special trust fund for health. So, Mr. Chair, hindi na po natin kailangan na magpa-tax po tayo ng magpa-tax. Ang kailangan lang po i-rationalize ang taxes ng PCSO para ibalik po natin, i-redirect po natin diretso sa universal healthcare at malasakit centers. Meron pa po kaming isang suggestion, Mr. Chair, kung tutulungan niyo po kami. We have more or less 27 special laws requiring PCSO to give funding support. Regrettably, Mr. Chair, most of these are not health-related po. Meron pong emerging need ang ating national government. And we would like to make sure that the vision and the legacy of President Duterte na swak po at effective talaga na universal healthcare ay ma-realize sa susunod na 2 taon. Sana po i-abolish na po ang lahat ng non-health related mandatory contributions ng PCSO. And by abolishing these non-health related mandatory contributions, Mr. Chair, PCSO will be able again to raise an average of 1 billion per year as additional fund for Malasakit Center. Now, in support naman po dun sa magandang layunin ng panukalang batas nila, Senator Riza, nakikita rin po namin na, Mr. Chair, i-develop po natin yung Malasakit Center na hindi lang po siya one-stop shop, kundi gawin siyang hub ng lahat ng pwedeng itulong ng gobyerno para po sa ating mamamayan. Halimbawa po, yung binabanggit po ni Senator Riza na tulong doon sa mga na hijack dahil ayaw paalisin dahil walang bayad, na detain. Yung DSWD po, pwedeng mag-evolve concept of fund pooling. Maybe we can enhance the laudable objective. Nakita po namin ito actual sa grassroots. Kasi nagpa-participate po kami sa Malasakit Center. Maybe even the social services and welfare programs of the government should be placed also inside Malasakit centers. Because what we have in mind is a whole of government approach po sana. Meaning to say, lahat ng pwedeng itulong ng lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno, may desk doon sa Malasakit Center, hindi lang sa health. Because, ang sabi nga po ni Secretary Duque during the OP meeting last October 7 with SDS Michael Ong, it takes a village. It takes the whole government to act together. Because the UHC will fail, including our social welfare services will fail kung hindi po magtutulong-tulong lahat. So, we look forward po sana sa suporta namin sa Malasakit Centers and the bill of Senator Riza. Unfortunately, at this time po, gipit na po kami kasi ang priority po natin, bigyan ng tulong ang UHC dahil yun po ang mandate ng PCSO. At ang susunod, ang pangalawa pong priority namin na magpatuloy yung suporta namin sa Malasakit Center. Pero, Mr. Chair, magiging permanente po ang tulong namin kung sasamahan niyo po kami na ma-rationalize ang taxes at ma-abolish po lahat ng non-health related mandatory contribution. This way, lahat po ng savings na malilikom ng PCSO, ibabalik po natin yan sa UHC at ang ating malasakit centers. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Gay Alwar, sa iyong pagmamalasakit sa Pilipino at naintindihan ko po. Salamat at naintindihan nyo. Kayo mismo po ang nakakaalam mismo doon on the grounds kung talagang kailangan ng tulong itong mga pasyente natin. Ang amin naman dito sa Malasakit Center, tapos na po kami sa interpellation, ang amin naman dito is how to set a criteria na para po hindi maging bungi-bungi itong malasakit centers natin, especially dito. Sa ngayon, inumpisahan muna natin sa DOH, run muna. Kasi itong mga provincial hospitals ay gustong maglagay rin po mga city. So, kailangan natin ng criteria para hindi lang po sila basta-basta maglagay. Tapos wala naman pong personnel mula sa PCSO, sa PhilHealth, kulang-kulang. Unahin muna natin yung DOH. Siguro, naintindihan nyo po siguro yung talagang anong layunin nitong malasakit center. Kaya maraming gustong maglagay at maraming gustong sumuporta. At sa ngayon, ikaw na mismo nagsabi, paano pa natin to palakasin yung malasakit center. Pero para sa akin po, the bottom line dito is pera. Kung may funds ba tayo. Kaya nga ayoko munang yung malasakit, ginawa muna nating bahay muna. Wala talagang sariling pondo at yung discretion po ng tulong ay mula sa inyo. Kayo po ang magbibigay discretion ng PCSO, PhilHealth, DOH at DSWD na tumulong, lalong-lalo na po sa mga balanse po ng pasyente. Tulad nitong package sa PhilHealth, kulang naman talaga, may mga komplikasyon. Kaya sila tumatakbo sa Malasakit Center para doon sa mga balanse. Pero we'd like to make it clear na wala po siyang hinahawakang pondo. Nasa 4 na ahensya po ang discretion po sa pagbibigay tulong. Pero salamat sa pag-acknowledge na alam nyo po na nakakatulong yung Malasakit mismo doon sa mapabilis. Huwag natin pahirapan ang ating mga pasyente. At maybe it will, sa pinag-usapan nating bills ngayon, itong dalawa, makaka-complement rin po siya sa reality sa nangyayari. Kasi una-una pag na hostage yung pasyente o yung cadaver, hindi sila, ang pinag-usapan naman nito is yung pambayad, wala silang pambayad. So with Malasakit Center dun sa hospital, makakahingi sila ng tulong sa DSWD, makakahingi sila ng tulong sa PCSO, sa iba't ibang ahensya pa sa DOH. At minsan po, totoo yun, yung DSWD, nakakabigay pa sila ng burial assistance para paglabas nung cadaver o yung patay, matutulungan pa sila, even pamasahe po. Yun nga, so let's get back to reality. Itong pinag-usapan naman natin dito is paano hindi maapektuhan rin po yung operations ng mga hospital. Naintindihan ko naman po yung inyo is paano po kayo mag-survive. Maybe, sabi nyo sa Bukidnon, kung nakapag-survive yung hospital doon, na siguro ibabalansehin po natin ang lahat. Ayaw naman natin na magsarado yung hospital. Maybe later yung ating Philippine Mortuary Association. So, balansehin po natin ang lahat po. Ang atin dito is huwag natin pahirapan yung Pilipino. Hindi lang po doon sa kanilang pagpapahospital, hanggang po sa paglabas nila ng mga bangkay nila hanggang makauwi sa kanilang huling hantungan ay huwag natin silang pahirapan. Paano po natin sila matulungan po. Ma'am, I'm willing to yung concerns niyo pag-usapan natin later.
Mag-sponsor po kayo?
Wala problema.
Kasama po si Ma'am Risa. Kasi JEDC po ito, God Attribution
Ma'am,
din
kung ano
po.
po may tutulong natin, may ibalik po ang pera ng tao sa
Para
kanila.
sa health.
Kanila, up to the last centavo po, ibalik natin sa kanila.
Naku sir, naiiyak po ako sa tuwa. Hayaan niyo po, ngayong Friday, nandyan na po yung proposed bill
Ma'am,
para mapabilis po natin ang tulong natin.
parati kong sinasabi yan, ibalik natin yung pera nila, yung Pilipino. Sa kanila yan, ibalik natin up to the last centavo, lalo-lalo na po sa health. Alam ko rin po yung concerns niyo, yung sa mga ibang beneficiary ng PCSO na not concerning health. Yun po yung maybe nakakapabigat sa inyo. Pwede natin pag-usapan ito. Maybe pwede naman po sila kumuha from other sources. At naiintindihan ko talaga kasi health talaga yung para sa akin halos marami talagang pumipilang Pilipino humingi ng tulong about sa health po. Pag-usapan po natin yun, ma'am. And I'm willing to
Mabuhay
help.
po kayo, sir, ma'am.
Senator Risa.
Salamat, Chair. Ano lang, gusto ko lang mag-restore ng mas maliit na sense of proportion kasi parang palaki ng palaki yung dalawang bills namin ni Senator Coco. Nire-relate ko rin lang po dun sa implementation ng universal healthcare law alongside yung sa yung bill sa malasakit. And then, gaya ng sinabi ni Chair, baka nga po yung input kanina ng DOJ on assisting sa burial expenses ng ating mga kababayan may necessitate another bill kasi hindi po naman siya ambisyong saklawin nitong anti-hospital detention bills. At the same time, kung i-amend yung sinabi ni Attorney Alvor sa PCSO yung tungkol sa documentary stamps taxes ng PCSO, hindi rin naman inaambisyong saklawin itong anti-hospital detention bill. So baka ito po ay nais lamang palakasin ng isang kasalukuyang batas through the specific proposals, yung stiffer penalties, and then yung provision for yung anti-hospital detention fund against which pwedeng i-charge yung kulang pang bayarin ng mga pasyenteng yon sa ating mga ospital. Thinking lang po dun sa yung isang sinabi ni Attorney Alvor, baka part ng rationalizing ng increase in doc stamps for PCSO is not to remove or reduce it, but perhaps to earmark the proceeds to health or to universal healthcare. So siguro habang tinitingnan ni Chair yung ni-raise na concerns ni Attorney Alvor, hopefully this may be useful. Chair, maaari ko bang tanungin ng dalawang tanong si Sir Tristan Nodalo tungkol po dun sa video na napanood natin kanina. Sa pagkaalala niyo po, dun sa kaso ng pasyenteng ipinakita ninyo, ilang araw po bang tinigil pa ng pamilya sa ospital bago makalabas kasama po si baby?
Ayan. Hi po. Good afternoon, Senator Risa, Senator Go, and sa mga nandito. So, nung na-interview ko po kasi si John Mao, yung case study doon, I think that's around May or March po, sorry, March. Tapos, pero yung kasi nagsimula po yun nung naghahanap ako ng case study on, yun nga, yung mga patient na hindi nakakalabas dahil hindi makabayad ng bill. Ang take-off po was the proposal, yung bill. So, naghanap ako ng case study. Then, a friend of mine, binigay niya po yung link nung story ni Jan Mao na nag-post siya sa Facebook niya, pinakita niya yung bill. So, parang, I think, early January, okay na po siya. Tapos February niya pinost na nasa hospital pa rin sila. So parang at least 2 months na siya nandun nung na-interview ko. Kaya po yung, di ba, yung bill niya na 100,000 plus, nag-balloon po into 300,000 plus yung bill nung patient.
So habang dumoble yung bill, saan pong mga ahensya lumapit yung pamilya at sa pagkakaalam ninyo, ano po yung naging tugon? Halimbawa, kung nilapitan ba ang DOH, ang PCSO, kasi nga gumugulong na yung bill, dumodoble na by that time.
Opo. Nung tinanong ko po siya, kasi usual tanong naman, una, bakit nga po siya dun sa private na napunta, dun sa hospital na yun, tapos sabi niya, kasi nga emergency, is wala na siyang kasi yung anak niya talaga is premature, so wala na po. Tapos yung doktor na nag-aalaga dun sa anak niya, yun yung tumutok dun sa case. So hindi na po nila mailipat nung na-admit na dun. Tapos pangalawa, nung ano po is, hindi naman sila mahirap na mahirap as in yung talagang wala. Pero yung asawa niya may trabaho pero minimum wage earner, tapos hindi rin po na hindi na kaya yung gastusin. So sabi niya po lumapit na rin sila sa PCSO, DOH, I think nag-send na rin po sila ng letter, but at that time wala pa rin pong sagot. And then sa hospital mismo, dun sa private hospital, nagtatanong na rin po sila ng pero hindi nga rin po sila binibigyan nung note, yung para makalabas, kasi po wala na rin po silang pang-collateral dun sa So yun po yung pinaka nila, kaya hindi sila mabigyan ng promissory note para makalabas kasi wala rin po silang co-maker. So in that situation, wala pong mag-guarantor na may magbabayad, so nandun pa rin po sila na stock. So and every day, lagi po siyang nag-check dun sa hospital area kung saan tinatanong yung bill, nag-update. So padagdag din po ng padagdag yung bill nila. Yun, ma'am. So all departments po ata nilapitan nila. May mga nabawas pero not enough to para mabawasan po talaga ng sobrang laki yung bill nila.
Salamat, Sir Tristan. Salamat, Mr. Chair. So may iwan pa rin yung tanong na posible nga bang magbuo ng ganyang anti-hospital detention fund para not 2 months later pero as soon as pwede nang i-discharge yung pasyente, mailabas, pero may klarong plano kung paano babayaran yung kasalukuyang bill nung pamilyang iyon. And gaya nga, Chair, ng sinabi ni Sir Tristan, yung concern na kung walang co-maker, kung hindi makapag-promissory note yung pamilya, at lalo na kung mas mahirap pa kina Miss Jan Mau na wala namang maipapromise, walang maikakolateral, so papaano po yon? So hopefully these bills will help provide one of the solutions. Salamat, Mr. Chair.
May we now hear the position of Philippine Hospital Association?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Philippine Hospital Association, an organization of about 2,000 hospitals, 60% of which are private and 40% government, fully support the bill of Honorable Risa and Coco Pimentel. And in fact, to private hospitals, this is a respite because, it will give guarantee to private hospitals at the end of the day, if patients who are supposed to go home but they cannot pay, and there is a guarantee coming from the various institutions. But the way I see it, it seems to me that the guarantee supposedly that will be given to the various government institutions are not feasible because of their statutory mandates. So I'm not sure, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, if is it possible, for example, for this bill to materialize, that is it not possible, let us say, to amend some of the provisions of the SSS law, GSSS law, yeah. Because, we are coming with bills. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a plain and simple doctor. But is it not possible, for example, that for this law to materialize, to be operationalized, and why don't we, let us say, amend provisions of the SSS, DSIS, and other laws that will actually that will fit, for example, into this law, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair. Now, the second issue. The second point, Mr. Chair, regarding the penalties, I think the Private Hospital Association would like to ask the honorable members of this august body that, hospitals are not really that prison camps, for example. In fact, if you will notice, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, there are hospitals in the Philippines, both private and government hospitals, are providing free services to our patients, poor, rich, or otherwise. And in fact, the bad debts being actually shouldered by private hospitals is so huge. And in fact, private hospitals are even complying with the intent and provisions of Republic Act 9439. Because what is stated, for example, in the law is, private hospitals will just ask for promissory note if the patient is admitted in the ward. But in the provision of the law, it states there that if you are admitted in the private room, it's very specific there that hospitals are allowed to ask for promissory note plus collateral or bond. And I think that's what hospitals are doing, meaning they are just following the intent of the law, which is actually there. Now, if, for example, meaning that is against human rights, for example, the patient, and maybe this law is an answer, but increasing the penalties may not also be, we are already providing a good a level of guarantee to private hospitals by asking government institutions to provide guarantees, but I don't think there is reason now, let us say, to increase the penalties, because meaning I was talking to some of our DOH. If you'll notice, there are thousands or millions of patients admitted in our private hospitals. And the law states that if there are aggrieved persons because they are being detained, there are processes stated in the IRR. And the process is they will go to the Department of Health and then they will file the complaint, state the bill of particulars, and they will conduct the necessary hearing. But what's going on now is, our patients, they go to a government officials, they go to media and others, and the issue now is whether or not are the practice really prevalent. Meaning, does it really speak of the totality of the practices of hospitals in our country? Because that is going to be very unfair on the part of hospitals. But if these are just sentinel events, because they are magnified in media, because they go to, let us say, to this person, and it becomes already as if it's really an epidemic among private hospitals asking for deposit. Because, among private hospitals, we know very well, even, for example, our statistics will tell us there are 700, 400 out of the millions of patients admitted in private hospitals. So you have to be evidence-based also. Are our evidence really ample enough to prosecute or to tell us that, private hospitals are crook? Private hospitals are detaining patients. I think that's unfair. And also to the one being interviewed, my question is, did you interview the hospital, the doctors? Because hospital taking care of patient is actually a very complicated business. For example, in this patient, this is a premature patient. It will need a lot of care, surfactant and others, and medicines are very expensive. You do not know where, when will the patient be actually discharged. So I think it's very important to put it in context also, whether or not that, these patients are really, meaning they're not being taken care of by the hospitals. For a premature, 6 months, a year, in fact, are actually not even enough to stay in the hospital. And I think, and we have to take into consideration, Mr. Chair and Madam Senator, that, one of the behavior that we should try to inculcate to our patients is, of course, the sense of responsibility. When you are admitted in a hospital, health is, it's a right according to the Geneva Convention, but you have to be responsible for your health also. And we do agree that if ever, for example, this will push through, then it's good for our hospitals because it will give us guarantee. However, with regards to the penalties, I think that is unconscionable. Because I think we have to take into consideration also that hospitals are our partner in healthcare, our partner in progress, and they're taking care of the poor also in our country. That's our position. Although you will write it, Madam and Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Senator Risa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yung tungkol po dun sa pag-amend ng SSS at GSIS laws. So, well, medyo hindi ko naisip yun kanina kasi ang mas naisip ko ay sa halip na mag-amend pa tayo ng ibang mga major laws natin, baka to look for a solution with the advice ng mga resource persons within the current bills. Kaya nga po kanina, Mr. Chair, I was thinking aloud na baka makahanap tayo ng ibang mga financial institutions na may pwedeng mag-exert ng role na yan over the anti-hospital detention fund. Kanina po, I seem to have heard, kung hindi man DOJ, DSWD, talking about ano yung posibleng papel ng DSWD, and one of those departments referred back to the DOH, na baka sa loob ng Department of Health mismo merong controlling mechanism, yung vetting process, kung anong mga balances sa mga ospital ang pwedeng i-charge against sa anti-hospital detention fund. And then as for the penalties po, well, in comparative terms, kung yung hundreds a year ay a small percentage ng thousands or more cases taken care of by our hospitals, then all the more, hindi dapat ito masyadong cause of worry sa ating mga private hospitals kung minority lang na mga members nila ang gumagawa nito. But in absolute terms, hindi ko talaga malimutan yung sinabi ni Dr. Swalog kanina na yung 400 plus in 2017, naging 700 plus pa in 2018. At may binanggit din po Mr. Chair ng DOH na no hospital was held liable. And all of these na lumabag sa current law, except for one, ay private hospital. So baka in fact, kailangan ng bukod sa positive reinforcement, may deterrent din na patuloy na lumabag. And this may be, no, subject pa sa further work, Mr. Chair, pero this may be talaga in the penalties as deterrent to those allegedly minority number of hospitals na lumalabag sa karapatan ng ating mga pasyente. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let us now hear the position of the Philippine Alliance of Patients Organization.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Risa. So I'm glad you called me because I wanted to respond to my friend, Dr. Herdin. Yes, definitely, the patients want to be part of the process where we manage her health condition. And we support the bill, but also recognize that private hospitals are a private business engaged in a public good, which is health. Therefore, there needs to be a balance between profit and social responsibility. We therefore propose that PhilHealth, being the main implementer of universal health care, take a look at how it can provide an environment where there is greater transparency in the health provider network. What am I talking about? This couple that Mr. Tristan interviewed, obviously they're not poor. So they're employed, so they know that they need to plan for the health of their child. But what really pains the patients is the lack of predictability of the costs of healthcare. And I recall that during the deliberations on the universal healthcare law, PhilHealth was very specific that they would already impose a maximum copay for other member types beyond the NBB. Because when you look at it, this problem also affects the middle class. And the middle class don't go to the board. They go to a small private room like this couple. So I think we need to be more creative and look at ways at also managing the supply side, which is the health provider network. One other thought that we have is, what about discounting? So it's a bad debt, Dr. Hardin. Has the hospital group considered discounting the fees, giving substantial discounts rather than totally losing that account? Because as I see it, no government institution wants to guarantee these bad debts from the patients. So what are we to do? We need to look at other mechanisms to be able to address this problem, because it will continue to persist and it will continue to increase in numbers as people utilize care because of universal health care. Now everyone is covered, everyone knows about universal health care, so we will see an increase in utilization. So we really need to look at other mechanisms to finance this, including the cost of care. Thank you.
Thank you. May we now hear the position of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, Director Naga. Kindly.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Peace be upon each and every one of you here in this August body. On behalf of the NCMF, the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, we would like to express our thanks in inviting us for this consultation for these two bills. The act increasing the penalties for the detention of patients and cadavers in hospitals, medical clinics, or any other similar facilities on grounds of non-payment of hospital bills or medical expenses, amending for the purpose Republic Act 9439 entitled an act prohibiting the detention of patients in hospitals and medical clinics on grounds of non-payment of hospital bills or medical expenses, and of course, being culturally sensitive in complementary with this Senate Bill 697, an act prohibiting the withholding of Muslim cadavers in the custody of any hospital, medical clinic, funeral parlor, morgue, or other similar facilities on grounds of non-payment of hospital bills, medical expenses, or other fees, providing penalties therefore, and for other purposes. For the information, our office, the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, is also a government office, a national government office under the Office of the President, which is now supervised by the Department of Interior and Local, the ILG. Yeah. And we are mandated to cater the well-being and welfare of our Muslim brothers and sisters. But then much to our desire na tulungan po lahat ng mga concern ng mga Muslim Filipinos, because of we lack funds, we are just a coordinating agencies, hindi po kami implementing agencies. What we are doing is to collaborate with reach out for other government agencies and non-government agencies. So with these two bills, we are expressing our support, since this will also benefit our Muslim constituents, considering na ito pong nangyayari sa Mindanao, especially dito nangyari sa Marawi, we're in a lot of Muslims from those areas na affected areas are already migrating everywhere across the country. So we really need to address their concern. And if Your Honor will allow me to read our position on about this, the management of the dead in our practice, not only for a religious or cultural practice, but this also has a health concern for the surrounding the deceased person. So death is a natural part of life and it is inevitable. Death is the reality from which no one can escape, and it draws nearer every day, every hour, or every minute. And this will happen either you are young or old, healthy or sickly. And our Holy Quran, the divine and sacred book of Islam, states that all that is on earth will perish. That is from chapter 55 of the Quran, verse 26. And also it also states that everyone shall taste death, and only on the day of resurrection shall you be paid your wages in full, and whoever is removed away from the fire and admitted to paradise, this person is indeed successful. The life of this world is only the enjoyment of deception. That is from chapter 3, verse 185 of the Holy Quran. Now, the deceased person in Islam is to be treated with compassion, as if the corpse were still alive. Although Islam is practiced in many countries and subject to cultural and regional differences and practices, the practice of burial and funeral rites remains uniform. Islam is a religion that encompasses the secular with the spiritual, the mundane with the celestial, and it includes a code for the whole of human life. In the Holy Quran, it states also that we have honored the descendants of Adam provided them with transport on land and sea, given them for sustenance things good and pure, and conferred on them special favors above a great part of our creation, which means to respect the human body, dead or alive. Human life begins at the time of installment, which is stated in the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, to be the 120th day from the moment of conception. And prior to that moment, the embryo has a sanctity, but not reaching that of a full human being. Life ends with the departure of the soul or spirit, a process which cannot be identified by mortals except by accompanying signs, the most important of which is the cessation of respiration and circulation. The sanctity of the human body, however, is not lessened by the departure of soul and declaration of death. The human body, whether living or dead, should be respected. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, "The sin of breaking the bones of a dead man is equal to the sin of breaking the bones of a living person," which has been extensively interpreted in the fields of autopsy and organ transplantation. And we believe that the deceased can still feel pain. Muslims believe that the world is a temporary place. When soul leaves the body, there is no reason to keep the body, and real life begins after death. Many Islamic states have their own customs and laws regarding burial. Muslims believe also in keeping the body as close as possible to its natural state. Unless there are extenuating circumstances, the body is not embalmed, frozen, or autopsied. The dead body should be prepared for burial as soon as possible. In order to avoid putrefaction, which occurs rapidly in high climates, cremation and embalming the cadaver is not allowed. This also keeps the dignity of the dead person. Well, of course, the OH are here. They can comment on these statements about the putrefaction. In science, putrefaction is the decay of the organic matter by the action of microorganisms, resulting in the production of a foul smell. Putrefaction involves the decomposition of proteins, breakdown of cohesiveness between the tissue, and liquefaction of most organs. The body is decomposed by the action of putrefying bacteria and fungi, which releases certain gases that infiltrate and deteriorates the body tissues and organs. The time taken for putrefaction depends upon various factors such as environment, temperature, moisture, the light, body condition, external injuries, and others. The body starts showing a greenish discoloration of skin within 12 to 24 hours when exposed to air. The foremost internal signs of putrefaction is green discoloration below the surface of the liver. Now, after the heart stops beating, the body immediately starts turning cold. Each hour, the body temperature falls about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit until it reaches room temperature. At the same time, without circulation, to keep it moving through the body, blood starts to pool and settle. Rigor mortis, or the stiffening of the body, sets in about 2 to 6 hours after death. Now, while the body as a whole may be dead, little things within the body are still alive. Skin cells, for example, can be viable, harvested for up to 24 hours after death. Okay. And then the best way to make sure dead bodies don't spread diseases is simply to bury them fast. Practical view is that dead body quickly deteriorates. Besides, by burying the dead quickly before the dead body gets smelly, we are preserving also the dignity of the deceased person. Also, it protects the health of the society. So, in health perspective, burying soon is preferable. So, that is the position of the national, of our, in our side, the, being a Muslim. And also, if I may request or recommend in Senate Bill number 697, the Section 2, Paragraph 2, states that within 24 hours from death, the Muslim cadaver shall be released by the hospital medical and so on. If we may recommend 12 hours to reduce it to 12 hours because after the death there are rituals na ginagawa po sa did the person especially po pag iuuwi siya sa sa provinces, considering na yung mga cemeteries po dito sa lalo na sa mga non-Muslim areas na mahirap po nahihirapan po kami kasi yung identified mga Muslim cemeteries po almost full na po, kaya some families prefer to transport their deceased relative to their respective areas. So thank you and wassalam.
Thank you, Director Naga. Next, we want to hear from the Philippine Mortuary Association. Please give your position.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman Senator Bongo and Honorable Risa Rontiveros. Yeah, I'm Mr. Renato Di Chanco, Chairman of Philippine Mortuary Association. And we heard the sentiment here of the Muslim people. And rest assured that at least from the side of the Mortuary Association, we will be informing them more or less that in case there are some bodies in the Muslim areas, then we'll do all things to make sure that at least it can be facilitated. The only thing that we would like to request also from the different entities of the government is to make it easier also in our part, because sometimes there are so many government regulations in terms of transferring the body, especially from one island to the different island. If these things happen in Mindanao alone, I don't think that's going to be a problem, because it can be easily be transported to the areas where you would like it to be transported. But unfortunately, sometimes if it originates in place in the Luzon, Visayas, or some part of the other areas here, where you need that to transport this on 24 hours, we have to get the necessary clearances from the Department of Health to transfer the cadavers also to the different part of the Philippines. That's one thing. Secondly, is more or less, the health regulation is so strict about these things also that at least contagious body cannot be transported. And sometimes the blame is put on the mortuary side. In as much as we don't like to at least hamper these things, how can we do also in our part? Because we will be at blame also if ever we do transport the body. So I suppose you would just like to ask also from the chair here, what can we do to make sure that at least everything can be facilitated also in a manner that at least there's no complication in our side, no? But we'll assure you, Mr. Chair, that at least we are there to really help out, no? Not only for the Muslim, but all our Filipino brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Sir Renato Di Chanco Jr.
Yes.
For your concern. About Senator Risa, do you have any question?
Not in particular, Mr. Chair, but just to say that I'm sure the committee under the direction of the chair will transmit the comments that are particular to the bill of Senator Coco, including kay Director Yasmin and kay Sir Di Chanco, so that together we can improve our bills in this committee. Salamat po.
Lastly, may we hear from the League of the Provinces of the Philippines, Ms. Angelica Sanchez, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Senator. So the League of Provinces of the Philippines fully support the passage of these bills. However, in as much as the Senator Hontiveros has been asking for certain suggestions, kasi po, we understand na there are also some patients po who are actually making, doing the shopping, financial assistance shopping sometimes they go to PCSO, they go to the DOH, they get the guarantee letters, and then sometimes this financial assistance is already enough to pay for the bills in the hospitals. However, they still choose to go to the LGUs to ask for assistance, notwithstanding the fact that everything is all right na, it can be paid for. So probably we suggest that in the case of these patients who died, so maybe the GSIS and the SSS could probably come up with procedures to facilitate the payment of the death benefits of this of these patients who passed away, and then yung there's a separate mechanism where these two agencies directly pay to the hospitals where these patients owe this has the balance. So that way we're sure na yung mga yung benefits na to are really go to where they should be. It could be paid for na. So I think that would also eliminate one of the issues of the what they call this, detaining the cadavers. So that's all, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator.
Senator Risa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yung isang napansin ko po, the whole hearing, nag-iiwas kung sino yung mga ngasiwa dun sa management ng proposed anti-hospital detention fund. Most understandably from the side of SSS and GSIS dahil sa sarili po nilang mga governing laws. At the same time naman, sila rin and the other departments here ay may mga alternative naman, mga suggestion, pati nga po yung league. So, I just want, Mr. Chair, to express appreciation for those suggestions, including DSWD na ba yun or DOH na mismo, in a way, in-house, para lang merong pong responsible government, either institution or department, na magve-vet nung aling mga balanse pa ng ating mga pasyente not covered by the basic or ward accommodation, not fully covered by PhilHealth, ay pwedeng i-charge against yung proposed anti-hospital detention fund after undergoing a proper process under a responsible government agency. So I look forward na lang, Mr. Chair, kung i-direct nyo yung technical working group, at least para dun po sa unang bill. So, maraming salamat po.
Go ahead, Attorney Rodel Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kasi po sa DOH, Madam Senator, meron na po kaming public assistance unit that also provides financial assistance. Kaya lang po, ito ay para sa mga government hospitals na patients natin. So, with respect to that fund, siguro pwede na rin po sila. No? Kaya lang po, ikuha natin kung pwedeng magbigay sa private hospitals po natin. No?
Salamat, Attorney Flores. Ano po ulit yung pangalan ng body na yon?
Public Assistance Unit po.
Public Assistance Unit. So salamat. In the same way po na gusto nung bill na palakasin yung kasalukuyang batas, then perhaps, meron tayong isang konkretong pwedeng i-explore, an existing unit, Public Assistance Unit, na tulad ng na-extend natin yung no balance billing to private hospitals, ganon din baka i-expand yung coverage ng trabaho ng Public Assistance Unit also dun sa mga private hospitals as far as the proposed anti-hospital detention fund is concerned. So, salamat po sa mungkahi.
Thank you. We had meaningful and productive discussions here today. Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
Sorry, Chair. Kung magsasara na po tayo, I just would like to reiterate yung requests po dun sa dalawa sa resource persons. Una po, yung request sa PhilHealth to officially submit their opinions or replies about the earlier presented scenarios, yung 5 scenarios po. And then lastly po sa DOH to submit the data on the compliance of hospitals, both public and private, to the mandate of having ward beds in the given the prescribed proportions po, 90%, 10%, saka 10%, 90%. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The issues and points are well taken. The practice of detaining patients who cannot pay their bills has to stop. This practice ultimately prevents the sick from getting the medical treatment because they fear of being detained in the hospital with their hospital bills getting higher and higher each day. This should not be tolerated. I would like also to point out that, like in any other law, stricter implementation will be key to achieving the objectives of this measure. We will schedule a technical working group to refine the provisions of the bills. Again, thank you and good afternoon. This hearing is hereby adjourned. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.